And then we get to Jordan Greenway, who made his return in this one. First period, just it's always funny. Like he randomly turns into like prime. Um, I don't know. Just think of the best hockey player, whatever best hockey player comes to your head, and like that was Jordan Greenway in the first period, just all over the ice, creating chances, set up Rasmus Dahlin on a breakaway. Had the primary assist on Dahlin's first goal that he just completely took over that shift. He was responsible for Jack Quinn's opening goal, rubbing out a Rangers defender along the boards and springing Quinn on the 2-on-1. Like it's just, I don't get it, man. He is just such a weird player in how he just randomly turns into a beast. With the trade deadline looming, it kind of opens the conversation up to uh what exactly you do with him, and obviously that leaks over to the conversation with Jason Zucker. Both guys pending UFAs after this year. Zucker obviously having a career season, who we've talked a lot about, and then now you've got Greenway. You figure he's someone that a lot of teams would love to insert into their playoff lineups, because of those things, because of the defensive ability, the forechecking ability, and when scouts are at games, it's you look at a night like last night. There's no way you can't notice him and notice what he's doing out there. So you would imagine that a lot of teams are seeing seeing the contract looming, the fact the Sabres could easily retain 50% and you could have an impactful middle six forward on your team for like $1.8 million. So um, what what do you think is the best course here? Do you lock up Jordan Greenway? Do you end up re-signing him, or do you kind of look at the Sabres lineup and feel like it limits a roster spot, um, for someone like Zach Benson, who right now sits on the fourth line?
I think this Greenaway, this conversation and the Zucker conversation is extremely interesting to me because I'm not sure you can or should bring back both if you want to switch up your lineup a little. I mean, obviously Zucker is, had a career year, but I mean Greenaway when he's played and when he's been healthy, um, he's been one of our better players. Like Lindy's raved about him. He raved about him before the season. He's raved about him, while he's been playing, and he's noticeable when he's out there. I mean, he's arguably our best penalty killer. He's always had good defensive metrics. He's put up a little point production this year. I think he's got like 8 and 21. So what he'd be, 35 points maybe this year if he played a full season. Um, and whatever line he's on, he's made it better. I mean, the first, I don't know, 15 games of the season, McLeod, Zucker, and Greenway was like our best line.
That was the line.
Yeah. So, and I mean, right now, he's playing with Cousins and Quinn, who obviously had not had a good season, and he gets Quinn a goal. The line looked decent. Like, it's really interesting to see what they do here because at the end of the day, they're both unrestricted free agents going into next year. So if they don't want to come back here, um, then you're probably going to ship them out in the next 2 weeks. Like I think that's what it might come down to. If they show interest in coming back, then you probably should at least extend one of them or maybe both of them. But if they don't want to come back, like it seems like Zucker might want to come back, but Greenway, who knows? I mean, I don't even think he was with the team for an extended period while he was hurt. Everybody was wondering at one point, like, where has he been? Um, so I don't know. If you really, if I only choose one, I think I would choose Greenway. Like he's younger. He just turned 28. He might not have the point production, but I think he fills that third and fourth line role better, where theoretically Zucker probably should be elevated a little more. And since he's aging, you could see his production drop off, where you don't need as much of that production with Greenway. So I think I would choose Greenway over Zucker, and I'm not sure you can bring both of them back. I mean, I think you can make the argument absolutely because of how good both of them have played. But if you want to switch up this lineup a little, I don't know if you want to bring him back because then you're basically bringing back, most the same forward core again.
Yeah, you think about next season, because I tweeted out during the game. You think about the start that McLeod, Greenway, Zucker had as a trio at the start of the season, and it's like, man, like if you just had that, like if the goal of the off season was to have those three reunited night one next year, I think that's a success. Like that's a third line that I think anybody could get up for. But moving on past that, what does the rest of your top six look like in that scenario? You know, let's say your top line. I feel like Thompson, as much as we've seen him on the wing, I feel like he eventually shifts back to center. I don't know. That's something we can talk about as the season ends.
I I I think under Lindy, I don't know. I can't see it happening, to be honest, at least right now,
I just
with
can't
how good he's
see.
played.
I just can't see. You know, man, that just puts so much stress on Yuri Kulik in
Oh
in
yeah.
terms of like even like if your only chance at like a legitimate top six potential first line center is really it's really just holding out for Pedersen, and that's something that could easily not happen. It's more than likely to not happen. So I feel like they just kind of get forced into moving Thompson back there. Anyways, that's something we can see how that progress. When the season ends, we'll have a better idea of where that's headed. Either way, let's say your top line, let's say it's Paterka, Thompson, um, Alex Tuck, and then your second line. It's right now. It would be with the guys that are still on the roster. It's a mix of Benson, Kulik, Cousins, and Quinn. So you conceivably ship out Cousins, but then your second line is some combination of Kulik and then Benson and Quinn. It's like no, you can't do that. So okay, like maybe you move out Quinn as well, and then try to bring in like another top six forward. It is tough. It's tough to kind of work out. You could easily just say, oh, maybe get Benson out of there, trade Quinn and Cousins, and try to acquire like two more Jason Zuckers and like kind of roll with like an even balanced top nine. But then again, like, do you want to pencil in Zach? Like, where are you penciling in Zach Benson next year? It's tough. Um, it is going to be interesting to see what like do they choose both of them? My my gut feeling right now is no. I feel like you kind of have to choose one, and I don't know who's more important in your lineup right now. It everybody's feeling the Greenway high, but when Jason Zucker comes out of the lineup, it's you're kind of left looking for goal scoring and somebody on your top power play unit. So that's the thing that makes this tough. Greenway's your best penalty killer aside from McLeod and Tuck. Um, but Jason Zucker has been, when the power play is going, it's because he's out there.
Yeah, maybe it is recency bias. I mean, I feel like Zucker kind of has quieted down compared to what he was doing earlier in the season, especially the first half. Um, and obviously Greenway has legit only played one game since he's come back from an injury. He's only played 21 games this season. So, maybe it's a little premature to fully hash out this conversation right now, but I mean, trade deadline's in like 2 weeks. So Kevin Adams has to make a decision on these guys in the next 2 weeks because like either you're extending them or you're trading them. I like if you lose them for free, you're gonna be criticized and deservedly so. Um, so make a decision. Like pick one, or pick both, but don't just don't let them walk. That's all I'm asking. Don't let them walk. Whatever decision he makes, I really won't criticize because they're both good players. They're both could probably get you a good asset in return, and they would both also be good in your lineup next year. Like I could see it going any which way. Just don't lose them for free.
Yeah, I think if you wake up on March 7th and it's deadline day, and you don't have an extension hammered out for, I feel like especially for Jordan Greenway, like if Greenway you don't have something out for, I feel like you have to look for an asset. I feel like Zucker's the ripple effect of Zucker being traded just because he doesn't have an extension that causes a lot of lineup shuffling that's uncomfortable. Like you look at the lineup they iced against the Rangers. Like it's nice and balanced. It's not ideal. Ryan McLeod shouldn't be your second line center. Dylan Cousins and Jack Quinn shouldn't be balancing or anchoring your third line, but right now they are, and that's kind of the best they can do. And as soon as Zucker gets taken out of that, well, it's either Greenway's going up a line or Jack Quinn's going up a line. I mean, maybe you would just throw Zach Benson up there as well, which could be fine, but he's not Jason Zucker right now, so it would make it, the ripple effect would be evident, and I guess I could live with, I could talk myself into a scenario where Zucker heads into the last month without a contract, but Greenway, if you don't have something decided, I feel like you got to look elsewhere.
And I think it's because they're both would have a good market in free agency. I mean, Zucker's coming off a career year, and Greenway's, his the style of game he plays is a wanted style across the league. I mean, that's why we traded for him. So I think that's part of it too. Like we would have to probably overpay theoretically for them again. And I mean, the Zucker contract right now doesn't really look like it overpaid. It looks like it's deserved, but you'd probably have to give them another million than they would get anywhere else.
So hypothetically, like looking at like realistic contract options, I feel like we've settled on like a Jason Zucker like 2 or 3 by 6 as something that's like realistic there. Greenway's a bit tougher to kind of find comps, but I feel like one that really fits is Dakota Joshua for Vancouver. Like very similar player in the Vancouver lineup for what Greenway is for Buffalo, and after that big playoff run he had last year, they gave him a 4 by 3.25, and I feel like Greenway gets a boost on top of that. So because right now he's making what 3.3, or was he 3.1?
Might be three on the dot. I thought it was nine
Is it three on the
million.
dot? Yeah, it might be three on the dot. It's low threes.
And I mean, every single agent this offseason is just going to point that the cap's
Well,
going
yeah,
up a
exactly.
significant amount
Yeah,
too. So
especially
all
like
these contracts are going to start to be a little inflated.
yeah, it depends. I don't know what Greenway you really look for. If I'm using the Joshua comp, then okay, 4 years. So 4 years for Greenway. It's probably close to 4 million ish. I feel like you don't want to go over. Um, so like 4 by 4 for Jordan Greenway versus like a 3 by 6 for Jason Zucker. Which one do you think is more ideal for the Sabres?
That's tough. I mean, I think those are both realistic and good deals. I think I would lean Greenway personally. Him being younger, um, I just I don't know. I like as much as Zucker has been good this year. I just got a bad feeling that you know he, next year, we give him a bigger contract, we give him an extension, and he just doesn't provide as much value as he did this year. So that's why I think the Greenway one will be of more value. And like, I think if Zucker, like what I just said, if maybe his production does go down, um, it will be tough to, give him an elevated role where I feel like even if Greenway doesn't produce, he's still a good defender. Like you could move him down the lineup and he would be just fine. I don't know if you could do that with Zucker. So that's why I think the Greenway one would be better.
I don't think there's a wrong answer to this conversation. For me, I think I lean Zucker, especially if maybe you could get it down to 2 years. Um, A Greenway is another one of those guys. Like he's great when he plays. He's just injured a lot.
It's a fair point.
So availability is sort of an issue there. And like I said, each player, I feel like as soon as one goes, you're immediately trying to fill that that hole that they left. So I don't know what's easier. Is it easier to find a penalty killing middle six forward, or is it easier to find a middle six scoring forward who's on your top power play unit.
It's also a fair point.
I feel like it's easier to lure, especially given the financial restraints. I feel like it's easier to lure another Jordan Greenway here, rather than you know paying $5 million for somebody, because the Zucker signing was it was kind of meh at the time. Like everybody knew it was an overpayment, and it's worked out great. But more times than not, those signings probably aren't going to go the best or live up to the values. So I feel like I don't know. I feel like I lean Zucker here.
Yeah, your rationale probably is more on point than mine, but that's just the gut feeling that I got, even though I might be wrong.